Agent Albatross here again with the Cypher Unlimited crew. We have our usual suspects of AB or Alpha Dean. We have Spigs 18 or Anthony. And Dean, what are we doing here today?
Well, today we decided that we're going to do another top 10. And top 10s are, become kind of popular around these parts. So we're going to talk about the top 10 commonly used descriptors. These are chosen by our members, from across Facebook and across our Discord group. It's going to be kind of cool, see what everybody has to say. And it's all yours.
Hey, first off, I want to say a special thank you to everyone once again that participated on our survey. We spread it across Twitter, Facebook, and of course, the Cypher Unlimited Discord group. For this top 10 list, we had a total of 99 participants, which all gave us their top 5 most used or favorite descriptors. We also had a total of 76 different descriptors receive at least 1 vote. Once again, it kind of bodes well for the system when there's such a diverse group of descriptors that appeal to different players for different reasons. But we narrowed it down to a total of 10 most commonly used or favorite descriptors. A lot of these surprised us, especially I'm really surprised at the top 3, but we'll get into that when we do. But before we get into our top 10, we had 4 honorable mentions who finished just shy of the top 10 with 5 votes apiece. So we actually going to read out the actual description of each one of these descriptors because 1, they're not too long, and 2, I think it puts the top 10 list in perspective. It helps explain why the top 10 list is the way it is when you look at the top 4 lists. So Al, you want to read us the first honorable mention?
Yeah, sure. So we'll go over these honorable mentions. The first one we have here, and again, I believe Anthony told me earlier that all of these honorable mentions received 5 votes each.
Yes.
Yeah, so each of these came in with 5 votes. So first we have is clever. And that is, the description says, you're quick-witted, thinking well on your feet. You understand people, so you can fool them, but are rarely fooled. Because you easily see things for what they are, you get the lay of the land swiftly, size up threats and allies, and assess situations with accuracy. Perhaps you're physically attractive, or maybe you use your wit to overcome any physical or mental imperfections. And you gain the following characteristics. You're smart. You get +2 to your intellect pool. You gain a skill. You are trained in all interactions involving lies or trickery. You're also you get another skill, trained in defense roles to resist mental effects. You got another skill here. You're trained in all tasks involving identifying or assessing danger, lies, quality, importance, function, or power. Yeah, a lot of we can identify quite a few things here. Comes with an ability as well. You were never good at studying or retaining trivial knowledge. Any task involving lore, knowledge, or understanding is hindered. Comes to some additional equipment. You see through the schemes of others and occasionally convince them to believe you. Even then, perhaps, they should not. Thanks to your clever behavior, you have an additional expensive item.
And then we'll move on to our next honorable mention, rugged. As we have said, all of these have 5 votes. So rugged.
We're not going to break down the descriptors.
Oh, if we want, I thought we were going to do all of them and then talk about it, but that's fine too. Let's do it that way. That works. So what do you think about clever, Ed?
This one is actually, I've never played clever, but it screams James Bond to me. You get the +2 to intellect, you get the additional expensive item, what you call it, which could be, James Bond had a ton of expensive items, so helps with that. You're trained in interaction with lies and trickery. It basically gives me the super spy vibe. Skilled in identifying and assessing danger. Yeah, I like this one a lot. I've never thought about using it, but reading it makes me want to play it. I like this a lot.
Yeah, clever. I think clever is a very versatile and useful descriptor. When I did my my League of Extraordinary Super Spies, I actually used this for Jason Bourne, which is kind of cool. But you're right. You know, I can see it being used for James Bond type characters or thieves. Definitely for thieves. You know, if you doing a fantasy campaign or whatever the case may be, this could be a very interesting uh, descriptor to use to change the flavor of what your thief type character is. You know, um,
I
it's
think
just
okay,
go
absolutely.
Go ahead.
I think a common theme in this, when I look at descriptors, I look at the inability that comes with most descriptors to see how impactful it'll be in like a normal adventure. And this inability isn't that impactful. So it's actually an inability that might not come up much, which is a benefit if you're trying to min-max.
Well, I mean, it depends. Again, I think in a one shot, it's not that problematic. But you know, if you got a good GM and you're using this in a campaign, this could become, you know, especially if we're talking about thieves. Thieves are normally the knowledgeable ones. So if this character doesn't have the ability to retain knowledge and stuff like that, you know, he might be, like you said, he thinks on his feet. He's quick on it, you know. So it just really depends on how you wanted to approach it.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the thief is not necessarily like I if yeah, this wouldn't be something for Indiana Jones, right?
Right.
But I always view the thief as the reckless one that goes, I'll figure it out as I go along. I don't have to remember.
But like I said, different flavors. Different flavors.
The way I viewed it is
okay.
the way I viewed it is more of like even though there is the charming descriptor, this is more of like the charming rogue, like that guy who's gonna like charm his way in and out of situations. And again, it's more thinking on your feet than being a smart guy, you know. That's just, and again, this is not one I've ever played because if you guys who have played with me before, I generally don't play smart characters. Generally don't play the clever dudes who know what they're doing.
I can see why this just got 5 votes though.
Yeah,
because
it's kind of funny. I've never played it, but like I said, I've put it on quite a few character sheets. You know, depending on what kind of game we're building up when we're building up the pre-gens and stuff.
All I can say is that this does well for the top 10. If this is an honorable mention, because this is actually we starting it off on the right foot. This is a really good one.
Exactly. So we move on to our next one, which got an honorable mention. It's called Rugged. And it says, you're a nature lover, accustomed living rough, pitting your wits against the elements. Most likely you're a skilled hunter, gatherer, or naturalist. Years of living in the wild have left their mark with a worn countenance, wild hairs, or scars. Your clothing is probably much less refined than the garments worn by city dwellers. You gain the following characteristics. You're trained in all tasks involving climbing, jumping, running, and swimming. You're trained in all skills involving training, riding, placating natural animals. You also get another set of skills. You're trained in tasks involving identifying or using natural plants. You have an inability. You have no social graces and prefer animals to people. Any task involving charm, persuasion, etiquette, deception are hindered. Additional equipment. You carry an explorer's pack with rope, 2 days rations, a bedroll, and other tools needed for outdoor survival. Now, this one for me, like I said, I've always liked this one. What I find cool about it is that this one truly gives you a massive package of skills. You walk away with what? That's 4, 9, that's 7. So it's almost like you walk away with, 10, 12 skills with this particular descriptor. And then the fact that, like I said, you have no social graces, so that's a fun tool. And then you also get equipment. So this is a pretty beefy descriptor, and it's one that, like I said, I've never played it myself personally, but have put it on a couple of character sheets as well.
I can see why this isn't higher on the list. A lot of people, I mean, at least this is the mindset I think that most people have. It doesn't give you any stat bonuses. You get no pluses to anything as far as your stat pools go. Other than that, again, this is like you said, a lot of skills, and this is something you definitely would use in like a survival game or like modern. Well, depending on, it could fit in a lot of time frames. Like even like post-apocalyptic might work because you're a scavenger, you gather things, you're good at, using plants. It's definitely one I have used for pre-gens for post-apocalyptic, or this descriptor, I should say.
I mean, this one fits multiple settings. This one, first of all, this is dripping with flavor. This is the perfect descriptor for when you have a concept and, I don't care about the bonuses, the minuses or pluses. I just care for something that fits my concept. And this is one of those descriptors that is absolutely perfect for that. I think it fits multiple genres. This screams fantasy to me. Like,
oh yeah, barbarians.
Yeah, barbarian, druid, any of the nature, ranger, any of those races, this is almost a perfect descriptor for. I will say this, but like I mentioned with the first one, the second one, this inability is actually impactful. Like this inability is going to come up whether it's a one shot or a campaign, because when you have any involvement with, basically you have an inability in any interaction because you can't charm, you can't persuade, you can't deceive, you don't understand etiquette. It covers all the bases. So this is basically, this inability will come up in a session. And I like when they have those inabilities in the descriptor because they're giving something to you at a cost. So I appreciate that. And like what Dean said, the extra equipment is always nice. It adds some flavor. So I can see why this made this list, but this one is just dripping with flavor. I want to play a specific style of character, and this is tailor-made to do that.
Yeah, this is like I said, you said the nail on the head when you said it fits so many genres because, I mean, you can put it in a sci-fi game, you can put it in a sci-fi fantasy game, you can put it in post-apocalyptic, you can put it in modern. I mean, think about it. They say you're survivalist and naturalist, so that typical movie.
It definitely fits Numenera.
Oh yeah, I'm saying this is just like that typical movie, when they have to go find the guy. It's in modern times, but he's living out in the woods in a cabin. It opens up with him building a rope bridge or something. This is like perfect for it. So,
yeah. But moving along here, number 3 in our honorable mentions, again with 5 votes. A pretty simple one, Swift. You move quickly, able to sprint in short bursts and work with your hands with dexterity. You're great at crossing distances quickly, but not always smoothly. You are likely slim and muscular. You gain the following characteristics. +4 to your speed pool. You are trained in initiative actions. You're trained in running actions. And lastly, you have an ability in balance. You're fast, but not necessarily graceful. Any task involving balance is hindered. Again, pretty short, straightforward one. I can see why it's on the list, or as honorable mention list. +4 to speed is really nice, and trained in initiative also very nice. Just those two alone, I can see why people are picking it. And then on top of that, you have the running actions, and there's usually, depending on the type of adventure, there's usually running from places to place. Usually pretty applicable skill there. But yeah, it's again nice and simple one.
Yeah, I mean, people see +4 and trained in initiative, and the min maxes, drool at this. +4 to any stat pool is huge. So, I could definitely see why this gets picked. And the inability, once again, it's an inability that may or may not come up in the game. So with a 50-50 shot, plus you're getting +4 to stat pool, +4 to any stat pool is going to be a
big
pretty
draw.
pretty big draw. So I could definitely see why Swift got 5 votes.
We're talking about this, and it's something that, it's different things that I think about as time goes on. And it's just one of those things that when you start looking at the inabilities, I think as a GM, when you get a character, when you get your player's character sentence, the pools really probably don't matter to you, but you should actually look at their descriptors to see if they give you inabilities, because this will help you, especially in those moments of improvisation or whatever the case may be, on how to add aspects and flavor. It can give you ideas on how to handle GM intrusions and so on and so forth. You know, and this is something that, you know, with Cypher System that I think is really cool, that it's forever expanding and modifying you as a GM if you let it, you know, if you start embracing it. So this one is another one of those things, like you said, it's not impactful on a typical basis, but you know what? You know that you could throw the GM intrusion in. Okay, you got to get across this, you know, you got to balance across this balance beam, you know, but you got to get across quickly.
I mean, that's a great point, Dean, that I mean, I know we've mentioned it before, but you know, not so much if you're running a pickup game, but if you're running with your friends and you plan to have more than one session, you should know what everything that's on everyone's sheet. And you should definitely either take a mental note or write down what everyone's inabilities are, because it's going to help you when you want to start crafting your story or the next session.
Exactly.
You know what to add into the narrative, what complications to add in.
And it makes it, I think it also gives you as a GM and the players somewhere to go other than just the typical combat. Mm-hmm. You know, it adds another element to your toolkit as the GM, and you know, for the players, and as players too, something to look forward to.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to move on to our last one that got 5. Happens to be one of my favorites. I've used this one and played this one countless number of times, and it's heroic. 5 votes. You're courageous, daring, and altruistic in equal measures. You're not afraid to face horrors that make others quaver, especially if it means helping someone else who couldn't succeed or survive without you. Some say you're made of the stuff of legends, and that your exploits will one day become the stories that inspire new generations. You are the following: mighty, +2 to your might pool. Heroic guys. You hold yourself in a way that inspires others. You are trained in all social interactions. Hero's complication. Although the GM can use GM intrusions on you, normally awarding XP, they can also introduce a GM intrusion on you without awarding XP, as if you had rolled a 1 on a d20, based on how your heroic nature tends to attract danger. However, if this happens, 50% of the time, your heroic nature works to your advantage. Your weapon breaks, but that allows you to notice something everyone else missed. A trap catches you, but it also catches your enemy. A new foe enters the fray, but your current foe mistakes it for your ally and attacks it instead of you. You and your GM should work together to determine the details. You also get skills. Things tend to go your way. You're trained in all tasks involving perception and finding hidden things. Your inability, you tend to take others at their word. The difficulty of any task that involves detecting falsehoods is increased by 1 step. So like I said, I've used this before for both as a GM creating pre-gens and as a player. I think it just kind of screams, you know, your typical hero. You know, when you want to make, I like it in superhero games when I make the Paragon hero, because, you know, of course, he has blinders on. He's, you know, thinks everybody is going to be honorable and do those type things. The fact that you can introduce the hero complication in, you know, but it's a 2-tier thing, you know, it affects the player, but it also affects the bad guys or the situation. I just like this, you know, descriptor a lot. I think it's really well thought out, and, you know, it's a lot of fun.
It definitely brings to mind that idea of the hero who is, like you said, with the blinders on, super focused on their heroic duties and actions, to the point where, again, you might not be thinking that the person you're talking to is lying about whatever they're, you know, you're discussing with them. So the inability makes a lot of sense. And, you know, the skills and the other things you get along with it all make sense for someone who's heroic. And it comes up in a later descriptor on our list, but just, I love any descriptors that let the GM mess with the GM intrusions in special or different ways. And in this one, 50% of the time, you can do this hero's complication thing where you don't ward EXP, but things can go in very interesting directions because you're failing forward with it, with 50% of these heroic GMIs. And again, it's a really cool tool for the GM and the player to have a little more fun with the GMI mechanic, which again I enjoy.
I mean, this is the prototypical Captain America, Superman, the super focused, I'm gonna do great things and I'm gonna inspire you to do great things. And I expect everyone else to have the same mindset, so I'm gullible to anyone else that doesn't believe what I believe type. I love the design aspect of this when they start messing around with GMIs. I think that's an underutilized like area in Cypher System that could be way more designed on. And this does it well. There's another one on the top 10 list that's gonna touch this. Anything that allows the GM to work with the player to create more interesting and focused narratives, I'm all for. The inability makes sense for the character, like makes sense for the overall descriptor. So, I have no problems with that. I just think this is a well designed focus. Descriptor. I really like the design on this. This is really, really good. And if I'll say this before Al leads us into the top 10, but if the top 10 is anything close to the honorable mentions, we're in for a surprise because I like all 4 of these honorable mentions.
Well, real quick, and it's something that, you just made me think about. Cypher System is cinematic in nature. And if you start really looking at the game through that lens, these give you the way to interpret those cinematic moments that you see in the movie. I mean, I know everybody, well, not everybody, because Al probably never saw Superman 2 with Christopher Reeve.
I sure didn't.
But it just takes me back to that moment in Superman 2. Remember when Ursa and General Zod had the bus and they getting ready to throw it at Superman? He's like, no, wait, all of those people, and you're going, wow, that was actually a cool GMI because it made Superman take a pause. It gave the villains a chance to, do their thing. But then in the process, they threw the bus at him and he was able to glean the insight. So when he moved the bus, he flew away to lead them away from the city and all the people. It was cool aspects like that. It gives you a way to interpret those moments if you switch the lens at which you look through as you watch a movie and so on and so forth, and you want to, recreate those cinematic moments in your game. There's tools right there for you to do it. Just wanted to say that, Al. Go ahead and lead us into the top 10.
Definitely very, very cool focus. Or excuse me, descriptor. I made the same mistake Anthony did. All right, but either way, now we'll move on to the top 10 most commonly used or favorite descriptors. And again, these were voted on by you guys in the community across Twitter, Facebook, Discord, all these nice places. So thank you so much for voting. But yeah, number 10. This one got 7 votes, and it is learned. You have studied either on your own or with an instructor. You know many things and are an expert on a few topics, such as history, biology, geography, mythology, nature, or any other area of study. Learned characters typically carry a few books around with them and spend their spare time reading. You gain the following characteristics. +2 to your intellect pool. You are trained in 3 areas of knowledge of your choice. You have an inability. You have few social graces. Any task involving charm, persuasion, etiquette is hindered. And you have an additional equipment of 2 additional books on the topics of your choice. A very nicely flavored descriptor here. Again, it plays up that whole very smart, book learned fellow. The inability, again, flavors it wonderfully because usually these people don't really talk to people much. So, it makes sense to give them that inability when trying to talk or be, persuasive. Just a nice, simple focus.
I like this focus a lot too. I've actually played this focus on more than one occasion. This makes the perfect scientist, the perfect doctor, the perfect college student, the perfect
nerd,
the perfect wizard in fantasy. And I'm gonna just say this about the additional equipment. You know how many times I've played with Learn and I say, hey, I got 2 additional books, and the GM always tells me, hey, just don't worry about the 2 books. Pick it when you need it. And then I use it in the game when we need a roll on something, I say, hey, this book is on biology. I haven't asked it. I'm gonna spend 5 seconds to look this up and help out. It is such a useful additional equipment. Let me tell you, people don't realize how useful 2 books. You essentially have trained in 5 areas of knowledge with those 2 books.
Yep.
Right. I mean,
So,
you said a mouthful. I mean, you just said the mouthful, man. I mean, versatility and the fact that it, you know, it allows a character to arise to occasions that not necessarily are always there, because especially when your GM says, don't pick the books up front, you know, that gives you that ability, you know, in the spur of the moment to be that guy, you know, and it's, you know, it's just like having a contact in you know, in a specific area. It is a great focus, you know.
But then, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead, Al.
But on top of that, it's again extremely versatile. But you can go the opposite way and use the books to even reinforce 2 of the 3 skills you've learned. So you're basically essentially specialized in them.
Yep.
So yeah, it's also a good way to like really reinforce a certain kind of maybe scientist or, you know, professor or something. Like they're really, really knowledgeable on these 2 topics.
You know, I mean, and the fact that it says books, it doesn't state that there'd have to be textbooks or something else. So you could literally say, well, you know what? I've got the research manual from, you know, when they were first developing this concept, you know, because it was hidden on a shelf somewhere and I found a research manual, you know, so it's all the notes. You're right. It's just like flavor out of this world. Lots of fun.
And I will say this about learn that we didn't touch on. Don't be scared to add learn onto a stabby, attacky character.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Get a combat focused character that deals damage and then add learn to be the skill junkie on top of that. This is a really good min-max, what you call a descriptor. For those that are, kind of clever, you know, you could really create a nice min-max character with learn.
You know, if you're going to go that route, Anthony, and you know, it literally goes for any descriptor that you can, you know, mix and match them. Don't get yourself.
I agree with that, but that's not the point I'm making. The point
I know that. I understand that, but I'm just saying that you bringing it up. It just made me think. You know, any descriptor can add a different flavor to whatever type of character you're playing. But yeah, absolutely. You know,
because this one specifically gives you 5 skills.
Yep.
You know, that's what I'm saying. Like, so you could take the warrior type and or the explorer type and take no skills and make up for it with learn.
Yep.
Very good.
All right, Ant, you're up.
I'm up?
Yep.
All right, so number 9 is Stealthy with 8 votes. You're sneaky, slippery, and fast. These talents help you hide, move quietly, and pull tricks that require a sleight of hand. Most likely, you're wiry and small. However, you're not much of a sprinter. You're more dexterous than fleet of foot. You gain the following characteristics: quick. You get +2 to speed. You get 3 skills. You're trained in all stealth tasks. You're trained in all interactions involving lies and trickery. You're trained in all special abilities involving illusions or trickery. And your inability is you're sneaky but not fast. All movement-related tasks are hindered.
That's a rough inability.
Yes.
It makes a lot of sense though, because you're going all in on this very careful movement character. So again, it makes perfect sense for something like that. You're more focused on these small.
Why they give you +2 in speed though?
Oh, that's more because again, Cypher System only has the 3 pools, so the speed here is more representing that you're dexterous, you're careful. Like you can.
Yeah, I would think it'd be more intellect though. Like
that could also be, yeah, that definitely. But again, I'm just going based on what they displaying here.
I'm with Al, and like I said, once again, not looking at. I've developed the ability to stop looking at the stat pools in the sense of, you know, how fast you are or how intelligent you are.
I understand that, Dean, but then we don't have a video. We're not discussing that.
Oh no! I'm saying You got to switch the lens at which you look at things through.
So we'll be like, videos, let's not discuss it. We're not going to discuss
Moving on.
No, because like Al said, it's straightforward. It is all about exactly what we're talking about. I get it. I'm with Al. The +2 speed. I'm just looking at it that your resources when it comes to being stealthy and so on and so forth are just as good as a person who's fast. But you focus.
All right, I understand where you're coming from, but from a design perspective, I don't know if I really necessarily agree with that. And here's my reasoning, right? Look at the 3 skills you get. 2 out of the 3 skills involve intellect. The inability you get makes movement, which is speed, right, hindered. So that means even with the 2 points you get in speed, it's basically you're using that on effort to make up for the hindrance. So why would they give it to you on speed?
Only on movement. It's only on movement.
Which is a speed related task.
But so are stealth tasks. Picking a lock. You're not hindered. Look, I mean, I get what you're saying, Anthony, but I understand from the design perspective, I see it through that lens. And I'm looking at it in that respect. I know quite a few people who have phenomenal manual dexterity, but are clumsy as hell. They can juggle, but they can't even tie their own shoes. They can't chew bubble gum and walk at the same time. It's just again, how you're going to view it.
Is it a cool descriptor? I mean,
yes.
Is it a cool descriptor? Yes.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with you on that one. I think it should be intellect. I think that you could even argue that most stealth roles can be argued to be intellect, like finding the perfect hiding spot. If a clever player comes up with a creative concept of why he would use intellect, he, she, or they would use intellect, I would most likely give them that. So, yeah.
I mean, it's your table. I mean, again, it's nothing. There's no right or wrong. I mean, you're entitled to look at it through the way you see it. I'm just saying I can understand exactly why it was built the way it's built. Makes perfect sense to me.
But either way, sorry, this is a great descriptor for the rogues, the thieves. It's very you know what kind of character you're building if you're picking this descriptor. Very, very shady dude most of the time.
Yeah, we have a common theme. We have 3 descriptors already that fit rogue type characters.
And here we come with another one.
Popular archetype.
Intelligent with 9 votes. You're quite smart. Your memory is sharp, and you easily grasp concepts that others might struggle with. This aptitude doesn't necessarily mean that you've had years of formal education, but you have learned a great deal in your life, primarily because you pick things up quickly and retain so much. You gain the following characteristics: smart +2 to intellect pool. You are trained in an area of knowledge of your choice. You are trained in all actions that involve memorizing things that you experience directly. For example, instead of being good at recalling details of geography that you read about in a book, you can remember the path through a set of tunnels that you've explored before. So, like we said, this is another one of those descriptors that work great for your sneaky, smart, stealthy, guy who operates, in the moment, as opposed to someone who's, someone who has a lot of book sense. And I think it's a cool descriptor. I've put it on a few pre-gens in my day as well.
Yeah, this is another one that drips with flavor, hits multiple genres. This is one of those, hey, I want to make a smarty guy. Intelligent is usually your first choice to look at to see if it fits your concept. And, the ability to remember or memorize things comes up a lot, especially with clever players on RP heavy games. So I could definitely see this and see that being utilized. And this is another one that doesn't come with an inability, so that's always a plus.
Yep. Honestly, me personally, I think I lean towards picking learned more than this, because of that versatility or being able to become incredibly strong in certain aspects of knowledge. But I can see why this is up there on the list for, you know, that lack of an inability. Like, people see that. I mean, I assume, again, I like personally picking things that have inabilities, but the max miners, whatever you want to call min maxers, they definitely want to have as few inabilities, as few things weighing them down as possible. So I can see why this is, you know, on the top 10.
I agree with you, Al, too. I think I would prefer learned over intelligent. But also, there's something to be said for a lot of people look at just the word from the descriptor and say, I don't care what's in the actual text. That word is what I envision my character to be. Because I've done that. Like, I've seen a word in the descriptors and go, oh, that's my character. And then I'll look back and be like, oh, this isn't so good, but I already said, oh, that's my character. I'm just roll with it. And I think intelligent sometimes falls into that category.
That is 100% true. I have definitely, when making pre-gens or something, I have an idea in mind, and I don't even look at the mechanics of, you know, what is given. I'm just like, oh, intelligent, yeah, this is a smart guy. Boop. And like, you know, but yeah, it's definitely, it's still a good one though. Yeah, and let's move on to number 7. It's one of my personal.
Did you say anything about intelligent?
He did.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, Dean did. Yeah. Did you say he did, Dean?
He did.
But number 7, we have Doomed, which again is one of my personal like top favorites. If I had to list my top 5 in a certain order, I think Doomed would be number 1. But either way, Doomed on our list got 12 votes, and it is described as such. You are quite certain that your fate is leading you inextricably toward a terrible end. This fate might be yours alone, or you might be dragging along the people closest to you. You gain the following characteristics. Jumpy, +2 to your speed pool. You're always on the lookout for danger, so you're trained in perception-related tasks. You are defense-minded, so you are trained in speed defense tasks. You are cynical and expect the worst. Thus, you are resistant to mental shocks. You are trained in intellect defense tasks having to do with losing your sanity or equanimity. I have no idea what that word is.
Equanimity.
Either way, and then my favorite part about the focus, Doom. Every other time the GM uses a GM intrusion on your character, you cannot refuse it and do not get an XP for it. You can still award to another player though. This is because you are doomed. The universe is a cold, uncaring place and your efforts are futile at best. So instead of an inability for this one, you have doom. You're just doomed. There's no positive to it like with heroic or, you know, I believe clumsy, or I don't know if clumsy's on the list actually, but I believe clumsy has a sort of positive effect with its like no XP GM intrusion. This one, there is no positive. The world is just uncaring. You get no XP. There is still the slight benefit of you giving an XP to a someone in your party, but I love this as an inability, and I love this as a flavorful descriptor. I just love it.
This one is, you know how I feel about Doom. This also made my top 5 list. I was shocked that it wasn't picked higher, but I know the reason why. I remember in a game I ran on the server, and I suggested the Doom the descriptor to one of the players. And the reason why they didn't choose it was very like thought-provoking to me. They said the reason why they didn't like Doomed is that what you got, like the benefits you got, definitely did not outweigh the concept of you can never refuse a GM intrusion and you don't get XP for it. People look at that and they go, no way. It doesn't matter what they put, you know, what you get out of it, you know, what skills you get, what pluses you get. They just don't want to give up free GM intrusions without getting XP. Not that I agree. I'm just saying that that's one of the reasons why I think a few people would choose not to play Doom. But I love the concept. Like I said in the other one earlier, anything that allows the player and the GM to work together to build upon the narrative, I'm all for. So I love Doom. I think being trained in speed events tasks is good. +2, the speed pool is good. perception related tasks is good. Like all the skills you get are actually quality skills. You know, resistant to mental attacks. Actually, you trained in intellect and speed defense. That's pretty powerful.
So,
you know,
sorry.
Okay, no, I'm just saying that you're getting a lot for the trade-off for Doom.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say when you were saying what that player had told you about how it really, you know, the positives could never outweigh the negative of not getting an XP. But the positives you get from Doomed are actually pretty strong. Like, you start off level 1 pretty beefy. But again, me as a GM seeing someone take Doomed, I might give them maybe one more additional regular GMI per session to make up for that lack of XP from, you know, the 50% of the time where I can just introduce one for free. Still give them that opportunity to, you know, to either, you know, deny it or whatever, give them the chance to get XP through regular intrusions. I feel like a Doom player, again, it's kind of, again, fitting for the theme of the Descriptor to have them maybe have one or two more GMIs than regular. And again, it still keeps them on pace XP wise, because they should have at least one or two more additional ones.
You see, I think it kind of goes against the flavor. Like, I think you shouldn't be on pace XP wise, because that's the Doom Descriptor. You know what I mean? It's like you chose this bad thing and I'm gonna circumvent it by giving you stuff on the side. You know what I mean? Like, but there is workarounds. This group of players could still give them XP. You know, like I'm not a fan of you chose the Doom Descriptor, but I'm a force feed you more XP than everybody else. It was your decision to choose the Doom Descriptor.
Here's the thing for me with this Descriptor. I like it. I've never actually played it. I put it on a couple of character sheets for pre-gens. The thing that I like about this is that I like this more for a campaign. I don't necessarily care for it in a one-shot. I think in a one-shot, like, you know, what Al was talking about, it can be mitigated real easy because the players can kind of get, you know, throw you past it. If you do a group GMI, if you do the group GMI on the one that they can't refuse, you know, it just kind of, it mitigates itself. So I look at it more as one of those descriptors I would love to see in a campaign. This would be that descriptor that added, you know, loads of usefulness, you know. And here's the other thing. Everybody talk about the negativity of a GMI, and they, you know, you got to get that away from that mindset too. Those GMIs need to be, people need to start using their GMIs to push the story, to you know, to structure their story and to add complications. I mean, I can see this being perfect in a campaign. And let's say you got a doomed warrior, okay? And you can throw a GMI in there where he gets visited by a ghost who has, you know, evil portents because you want to do a side quest. Boom, there you go. Now you gave him a GMI. It's nothing terrible, but you didn't have to give out an XP to get that into the game. So
hold on, can I just address Analyst? I would view the Doom Descriptor works perfect for Black Widow. I never said anything about a character not being capable and having the Doom Descriptor. I was talking about giving the character extra XP because they chose the Doom Descriptor.
Right.
And I never said that they weren't capable. I just said that if they chose the Doom Descriptor, right, they should follow the rules that comes with the Doom Descriptor and not get extra XP handed to them because they lacking in that department. But the point I was trying to, and for the record, Doom to be a perfect descriptor for Black Widow.
Throughout her entire career.
Yeah.
I mean, when you really think about it, if you really think about the character and how she went forward through, she had a lot of mishaps. I mean, so yeah, but you can kind of see what I'm saying about, you know, using it campaign wise and so on and so forth.
I want to touch on one thing. Inabilities and negative descriptors and negative abilities should be embraced. You know, because that's what makes your character unique. What makes your character special. Like, I know I was given a reason why someone would choose not to, because I'm playing devil's advocate. But I think out of the three of us, I've probably played Doom the most. I've played it like 3 times. I love the inabilities. I love the what you call it, the negative aspects on your character, because it actually fleshes out your character and it brings your character to life. You should embrace those things and play out to them, not shy away from them.
Well, that's the point I'm making, is that if we change our mindset a little bit and look at it through the lens of, it's not a negative or a positive, it's a story beat. It's an aspect to build your stories and your adventures in your games. I think that would help a lot of people too, because again, like I said, I try to get away from the whole concept of it being a negative, or this is a bad thing. Well, no, this is a new thing that is going to introduce some interesting flavor into the game. That's just how I approach it.
Who's the next one? Me?
Yes.
So this one is mystical with 12 votes, but before I even go to read, I'm gonna explain this. I know in Numenera, mystical and mechanical were one, what you call a descriptor. So anyone that voted mystical / mechanical, I counted it as a vote for each. Right, and mechanical only had 4 votes, so it missed the honorable mention. But mystical had votes on top of the votes for mystical / mechanical from the original Numenera. So that's why I wound up with 12 votes, in case anyone asks. You think of yourself as mystical, attuned with the mysterious and the paranormal. Your true talents lie with the supernatural. You'll likely have experience with ancient lore, and you could sense and wield the supernatural. Though whether that means magic, psychic phenomena, or something else is up to you, and probably up to those around you as well. Mystical characters often wear jewelry, such as a ring or amulet, or have tattoos or other marks that show their interest. You gain the following characteristics: smart, +2 to your intellect pool; skilled, you're trained in all actions involving identifying or understanding the supernatural; sense magic, you could sense whether the supernatural is active in situations where its presence is not obvious. You must study an object or location closely for a minute to get a feel for whether a mystical touch is at work. Spell, you can perform hedge magic as a spell when you have a free hand and can pay the intellect cost. And what you have an inability. You have a mana or an aura that others find a bit unnerving. Any task involving charm, persuasion, or deception is hindered. This one, I could definitely tell you why I made the list. It gives you a free spell. People love free stuff. And what you call it, hedge magic, gets used in so many creative ways and by so many different type of characters. I could definitely see, what, I get a free spell? It's like getting an extra ability, so I definitely see why that could be used. And, once again, anything that gives you multiple skills, this is a good one. And I could see it played by multiple types of characters.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's very flavorful. You have the other skill of, you're trained at identifying and understanding supernatural stuff. And supernatural stuff could mean different things depending on the setting. But on top of that, you also have sense magic, which is also really cool. You can tell if this quote-unquote supernatural thing has been happening in the area, whether it's obvious or not. Just look around. And a lot of focus, or excuse me, a lot of the descriptors don't have something like this that kind of adds a little more flavor and like a sort of very mild ability. And it's nice to see it. It's really, again, really adds to the flavor of the descriptor, and it's useful.
What I like about this is another one of those descriptors. Got to be about to say focus now, Al.
We all said it at least once.
This descriptor is one of those that, to me, also add to the ability to run a fantasy game. Back in the good old days when you had to have a magic user, you had to actually cast, a detect magic spell and stuff like that. That was a spell slot that you had to have right in your descriptor just, one of your mundane abilities is detecting magic. You can sense mystical auras or however you want to play it in your game. If I think that's brilliant, and I love that aspect too. That Cypher allows kind of a free hand in crafting those ideologies, and this is one of those descriptors that really fit that bill. The fact that you understand the supernatural, identified it, so all of those slots that you would have to, spend a spell slot in other games, identify is a huge one. You want to know what this magic item does. Well, now, you trained in it. You can literally figure it out, and you as a GM can be creative with it. How are you going about making this identification? Do you have a little kit? Whatever. It's just so many different things. So yeah, this one is great. I think it's awesome that it, is sitting on the list where it sits.
And just this goes without saying, I think out of all this is the first one that I can honestly say probably fits in every Cypher System book that came out. Numenera, Gods of the Fall, every single genre that they've produced can use mystical.
Yeah, because you can even use it in a sci-fi game, because you always have those, especially if you want to create a Jedi, or you got the spiritual warrior, like in various things where they've shunned technology and so on and so forth. If you want to make it psychic energy,
Psionics.
That's what I'm saying. Psychic energy, psionics. Yeah, it works for everything. So it's really nice. So
Very
coming to
versatile.
now we're getting ready to move into the top 5. Woo woo. And with 13 votes, mad. And I can understand it because I love this descriptor. I think it's a great descriptor. You have delved too deeply into the subjects people were not meant to know. You were knowledgeable in things beyond the scope of most, but this knowledge has come at a terrible price. You're likely in questionable physical shape or occasionally shake with nervous tics. You sometimes mutter to yourself without realizing it. You gain the following characteristics: knowledgeable, +4 to your intellect pool, fits of insight. Whenever such knowledge is appropriate, the GM feeds you information, although there is no clear explanation to how you could know such things. This is up to the GM's discretion, but it should happen as often as once each session. Erratic behavior. You're prone to acting erratically or irrationally, and when you are in the presence of a major discovery or subjected to great stress, such as a serious physical threat, the GM can introduce a GM intrusion that directs your next action without awarding XP. You can still pay 1 XP to refuse the intrusion. The GM influence in this manifestation of your madness and thus is always something you would not likely do otherwise, but it is not directly obviously harmful to you unless there is an extenuating circumstance. For example, if the foe suddenly leaps out of the darkness, you might spend the first round babbling incoherent or screaming the name of your first true love. You are trained in one area of knowledge, probably something weird or esoteric. Inability, your mind is quite fragile. Tasks to resist mental attacks are hindered. This descriptor is so much fun to play. So much fun. I played in a game with Synth, and like I said, to have this character babble when, combat, it was just awesome. I think it's a lot of fun. It adds a lot of flavor. It adds a lot of opportunity for great role play moments. And, when you work with your GM, your GM might give you like insights into the game beforehand just because they need you to be a specific way or respond a certain way to something that's going to happen. Great descriptor. Love it. It's, and then the benefits to it is also pretty nice too. I mean, the fact that you have knowledge, that you can just know things that you should know, and you don't have to explain how you know it, is awesome. So that's my take on Mad. I enjoy it.
I'm gonna play the devil's advocate on this. First off, I agree with you. This is actually a beautiful descriptor, very flavorful, very enjoyable when played right. But from experience, I can tell you that Mad is one of those descriptors that gets played wrong. Wrong isn't the right word because there's no wrong or right way to play. But some people take mad and use it as an excuse to be a dick.
Disruptive, yeah.
Be disruptive. And I've seen it happen in con games. I've seen it happen in actual games. Mad is one of those descriptors that has to be agreed upon on the table of how the character is going to be played. Because I've seen people see mad and gives them the license to, I'm going to be an asshole at the table.
Well, that's why session 0 is very important.
I'm mad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, but then that's why I think
I'm mad.
But that's why I think session 0 is very important.
And the other thing, as a GM, I'm always leery about controlling. Once again, I'm just playing devil's advocate, but I'm also always leery about taking agency away from a player and how whether it's done respectfully and in agreement with the player. And some GMs view mad as a way to, I'm gonna stick it to the player and there's nothing you could do about it, which can be problematic as well. So while I agree with you that I think it's a great descriptor, I think this one is one of the descriptors that should have like the yellow caution tape in front of it, and a discussion has to be had when a player chooses it, especially with a group that of people that are not comfortable playing with each other, or in a con game setting or in a one-shot setting. You know, it's good for the player and the GM to both put what their expectations are for MAD ahead of time.
Well,
this is definitely a excuse me, I keep saying focus. This is definitely a descriptor that requires a certain kind of player and a certain kind of GM, and for them to be on the same page. You definitely don't want to have some stranger in like a random pickup game or a con game using this descriptor, because you literally don't know how they'll take mad, how their character acts crazy or whatever. Yeah, it's definitely one to be careful with.
I'm gonna tell a funny story. I had a game where somebody was playing mad and they thought that it was funny to say that their character pulled out their wing wag and was flapping it around. You know what I mean? And needless to say, I don't think that is how you should use mad. And that's what made me think about it.
And I think that, yeah, I get what you're saying, Anthony. And again, I think that's, again, one of the reasons why, you know, you and I kind of go two different directions when we make pre-gens. A lot of times I like to put a little background information on that pre-gen to give people an understanding of what I expect as a GM, so on and so forth, especially for a one-shot. If we're going to play a long-term campaign, and I'm going to have a discussion with you about, you know, what the expectation is. And see, I don't see MAD as being crazy where you're going to pull out, like you said, pull out your wing and flap it around. I see it as, you know, the mad scientist, the person whose perception has been altered.
Yeah, I know. I'm agreeing with you. I'm not saying it isn't fun. I'm just giving I'm putting out.
Oh, no. I know that, but that's what I'm saying. No, but no, that's what I'm. That's what I was saying about what I was saying, though. That's why I would have that discussion, or I have those little story beats or character beats on the sheet, because to try and avoid situations just like what you encountered. That's all.
Definitely worthwhile to take precautions when using descriptors like that.
It's you, Al.
All right. So at number 4, we have Resilient, that got 19 votes, and we'll see why. So you can take a lot of punishment, both physically and mentally, and still come back for more. It takes a lot to put you down. Neither physical nor mental shocks or damage have a lasting effect. You are tough to phase, unflappable, unstoppable. You gain the following characteristics: resistant, +2 to your might, and +2 to your intellect pool. You can make an extra recovery roll each day. This roll is just one action, so you can make 2 recovery rolls that each take 1 action. One that takes 10 minutes, a fourth that takes an hour, and a fifth that takes the 10 hours. You're trained in might defense tasks. You are trained in intellect defense tasks. You have an inability. You are hardy, but not necessarily strong. Any tasks involving moving, bending, or breaking things is hindered. And you have a second inability. You have a lot of willpower and mental fortitude, but you're not necessarily smart. Any task involving knowledge or figuring out problems or puzzles is hindered. And this is an insanely strong focus, or excuse me, descriptor. The fact that you get +2 to 2 different pools and intellect and might defense tests are that's so strong.
I mean,
as you was reading, I'm like, damn.
Yeah, you get and extra recovery. This is so strong.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's crazy that you even brought it, but I've used this. When I wanted to play the tough barbarian, the juggernaut, the tank, this is the character, this is the descriptor for that type of character. I love it, I just think it's funny that, a lot of people will not necessarily, look at it, but I like the fact that you don't see everybody sit down at your table either with resilient.
It's so strong.
I think a lot of people look at resilient. I think
it's number 4 on the list.
No, I'm not saying that a lot of people don't look at it. I'm saying I'm happy that everybody at your table doesn't come to the table and every character is resilient. That's what I'm saying, because it is so damn beefy.
Even when they designed it, they knew it was OP a little because they added 2 inabilities, and it's still OP with the 2 inabilities. And the 2 inabilities are actually kind of impactful. The ability, to break things, bend things, move things happens a lot, right? And what you call it, the knowledge and figuring out puzzles, maybe not so much. But maybe it should have been another impactful inability instead of that one to make it a little, because this one seems a little OP to me.
It's super strong.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I honestly say this is another one of those. This is another descriptor that you as the GM need to know what it's all about, and you can tailor things that will be impactful. Don't make everything rely on him. Making a might roll or an intellect defense roll or so on and so forth. Give him things that are going to challenge him, And I'm not saying that, the game has to be built completely like that, but I'm just saying you've got the ability to add those aspects in.
I mean, I definitely agree with you, but we're just discussing the overall.
Oh yeah, overall, exactly.
Itself. You know what I mean? Like you get an extra recovery roll, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, I guess that's the tank.
Then we were talking about like 3 or 4 of descriptors before this. We were talking about how it was cool to have your training 2 defense tasks. They get that too.
Yeah.
And then we were talking about how 4 points to a pool. Guess what? They get that too. This is really a really good.
Oh, it's beefy. It's like I said, I love it. Like I said, but again, this is also when you think about it, when you're playing that fantasy game or you're playing that side, you want to be able to sometimes have that guy who is just going to plow through, the bad guys. And I think
it's okay to say that something is a little overpowered, though.
Oh no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think it's cool that it's built in, that you don't have to do any crazy machinations to get it. You just pick. Look, I just took that. That's all.
I think that. Okay.
No, I was gonna say one thing they could have done to maybe balance it a little bit, because I can't think of off the top of my head which descriptors do this, but some descriptors do give negative to a pool. In this situation, I feel like they could have easily gone and give -2 speed, because you're so beefy, you're so resilient, you're hunkering down, that it would make sense that you're not fast or not quick, not dexterous, to have a -2 to your speed to kind of compensate for all these crazy buffs you're getting.
You know what's funny? We're gonna go to 3, right? And I would think that 3 and 4 would have flip-flopped.
Yeah.
Because I understand why 1 and 2 are there, but I'm a little confused why 3 is ahead of 4.
Very, very astute, yes.
And it beat it out by 1 vote, actually.
And that's why.
We could probably move on to it then.
That's exactly why.
So number 3 is Brash with 20 votes. You're a self-assertive sort. confident in your abilities, energetic, and perhaps a bit irreverent towards ideas that you don't agree with. Some people call you bold and brave, but those you've put in their place might call you buffed up, puffed up, or arrogant. Whatever. It's not your nature to care what other people think about you, unless those people are your friends or family. Even someone as brash as you knows that friends sometimes have to come first. You get the following characteristics: energetic, you get +2 to your speed pool. Skill, you trained in initiative. Bold, you're trained in all actions involve overcoming and ignoring the effects of fear or intimidation.
And
This
that's
is
it.
cool, but this is cool, but compared to like 6 or 7 other descriptors on this list, this is a kind of a dud.
So the reason I think this is on here, I think we said it for, I think it was Swift, +2 to speed and training initiative. Those are always like highlighted, like, hey, I'm gonna go first. I can do better in combat. I'll be doing things with more priority. And I feel like in a lot of games or I guess it really depends on the setting or story being told. Overcoming fear or intimidation does come up quite frequently. The guards that are trying to like keep you in your place, the terrorists that are trying to do whatever, like you can overcome this thing. Like most stories have some form of intimidation or fear to get over. It's just very solid all around. And another reason, there's no inabilities, absolutely none.
Yeah, but I've noticed that the ones that don't have any like major inabilities is because deep down in their heart they feel like they didn't give you enough.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
My
The
observation.
descriptors.
The descriptor.
My observation with this also is I think when I look at these top 3, I believe all of these are in a Numenera book. And I don't, not to say everybody out there who voted, is like us, who has everything, who picks up all the books and look at all the different descriptors. But I'm quite sure the top 3 are all from Numenera,
That's a good observation.
That's another huge thing because sometimes you don't see some of the other descriptors, and if you remember, Numenera does have a smaller list of descriptors than the other books.
That's true. That's a good point, Dean. That's a great point.
But that being said, I can see this being, useful. Like you said, initiative. Everybody wants to go first. Another couple of points of your speed pool never hurt anybody. And then the fact, like Al, and I agree with Al, overcoming fear and intimidation is huge. I
mean, I'm not knocking the descriptor itself, because as a descriptor, I would play Brash. There's no negative. You get some reasonably good. I'm just comparing it to the top 10.
Oh, I know. I got you. I understand exactly that, but I'm saying that
especially when we see 2, and then we're gonna look at 3, and you're gonna be like Brash to me. Honestly, there was stuff in the honorable mentions that I think.
I'll be honest with you. I have never played Brash, nor have I put Brash on any of my character sheets when I create pre-gens, and I can honestly say that. I know that for a fact.
I mean, I would play it. It's not a bad descriptor.
I'm not saying I wouldn't play it. I'm not saying I wouldn't play it.
Descriptor in all the Cypher system.
No. I said I'm not saying I wouldn't play it. I'm saying that I have never. That's what I'm saying. It just hasn't been one that jumped out at me for a character yet. But hey.
All right, Dean, why don't you read 2?
Number 2, Graceful. What were you saying, Al?
No. I just had a quick little thing to say about Brash. The fact that it was so high up on the list is probably also attributed, again, that it's in the Numenera book and more people have that book. But it also kind of harks back to what Anthony was saying, that some people might not even look at what the thing gives you before, like, hey, my character's Brash. Like, that I'm going to pick it and stick with it, So it ends up being used a lot.
Yeah, that's a good point. So
I think both of your guys' points combined make sense. one that most people play Numenera than any other Cypher System game. There isn't as many descriptors. So, and what Al said, people tend to vote what they played. So
Right.
there were 20 descriptors and you chose Brash, that's what you're going to vote on your top 5 list.
Exactly. So number 2 is Graceful with 24 votes. You have a perfect sense of balance, moving and speaking with grace and beauty. You're quick, lithe, flexible, and dexterous. Your body is perfectly suited to dance, and you use that advantage in combat to dodge blows. You might wear garments that enhance your agile movements and sense of style. You gain the following characteristics. +2 to speed. You were trained in all tasks involving balance and careful movement. You were trained in all tasks involving physical performing arts. You were trained in all speed defense. So that right there, you know, like we've noted with others, no inabilities, a bonus to your pool, you know, and then you get, you know, basically 3 trainings plus a speed defense. So I think that's, you know, self-explanatory. It's very nice, you know, like when you want to create an elf character or something like that.
I think, Dean, you're right too. This is another one that it's in Numenera, but I also think that this one touches a lot more areas. Like I could see it played in a lot more different genres besides Numenera.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, the speed defense task, which is probably the most used defense task, to be honest, is by far, you know, yeah, to be trained in that, and then to be trained in balance and movement and physical performing arts, which can be interpreted in so many different ways with a creative player. I think Graceful is a hit. Is it a number 2 hit? Maybe not, but it's still a hit for me. It definitely has a place on this list.
Yeah, it's definitely really strong. And again, no inabilities. I think all 3 of these top ones, they don't have inabilities. I can definitely see, again, the min-maxer, you know, hey, there's nothing holding me back, so might as well pick it, right? Definitely a huge highlight for people, again, looking to not have negatives, not have inabilities.
Yep.
And
that was straightforward.
Yeah. And now we're on to number 1. Drum roll, please. Shittiest drum roll. Anyways, number 1 is Tough, and that one got 27 votes. Quite a few votes. 3 more than number 2. But either way, you're strong and can take a lot of physical punishment. You might have a large frame and a square jaw. Tough characters frequently have visible scars. You gain the following characteristics. Resilient, +1 to armor. Healthy, add 1 to the points you regain when you make a recovery roll. You're trained in might defense actions, and you have an additional equipment of 1 extra light weapon. And that's it. Nice, straightforward, easy. Again, you're like the tanky dude, but I find it strange that this is number 1 opposed to Resilient. I feel like Resilient would be the go-to for like this sort of tanky, you know, beefy dude. Again, +1 armor, +1 to your recovery rolls, nothing to sneeze at. Those are fantastic, especially since they're not adding any negatives. Sort of like, you know, when you have +1 to your armor, usually, you know, add that speed defense hindrance or whatever that +1 to your speed costs for your effort. But it's free. And this one you just have +1 armor, which is really nice. And +1 to recovery rolls also really nice. Like that's just on top of what you normally do. And again, no negatives. So again, I can see why that may be why it's top compared to Resilient, because Resilient does come with 2 inabilities, and this one 0. Again, this might show that maybe some of our voters might be in that min-maxer mindset, because again, all 3 of these top 3, no inabilities to be seen.
Like I said, and these top 3 are all Numenera. They're all Numenera Discovery.
Was Resilient in Numenera?
No.
Quick. Oh.
No. It's not.
There we go.
All 3 of these are Numenera, and I'm quite sure that some of the other ones that we're talking about, if people had the option of, you know, seeing them, you know, they would probably, you know, have made a different choice. Maybe.
I will say this about Tough though. I think Tough would definitely be min-max, or basically Tough is a really good descriptor. You get an armor, which is the first descriptor on this whole list that's giving you armor, right? You get an extra point on your recovery roll, which is huge. That goes with you through the entire campaign of a game. That can make a huge difference. Once again, like we spoke about, getting trained in defense actions are always really good. And then you get an extra weapon. So this is like hey, I want to create a character that kicks ass with no negatives. This is a really good descriptor. Like, even if it wasn't from Numenera, I would put this in my top 3 if I was trying to be as efficient as possible.
Well, the thing about it is, like I said, this is in Numenera, but like all the other ones, this is in the other books too. This is in the Cypher System rule book. So we see it, but I'm saying because it's in the Cypher System rule book, those of us who use that book or have expanded worlds, we get to look at some other stuff. Like heroic is in the expanded worlds.
There's nothing wrong with I understand that we like to play narrative games, right? But there's nothing wrong with people wanting to min-max. Hell, that's how gaming started. You know what I mean?
This is the thing. There's nothing wrong with you wanting to play the ass kicker in your game. I mean, no matter what game we're playing, you know what? There is that aspect. There is the aspect that a fight's going to break out, that there's going to be some sort of conflict going on. And why not have a character? I mean, just think of it this way. I don't know how many of you out there watch The Expanse, but that show is great. And I'm blanking on my character's name. It's my favorite character on the show, but he's the tough guy, on the show. And he would be any of those. He could be resilient. He could be tough. He could be rugged. It's just a beautiful descriptor. It's like awesome.
And Adela's brought up a great point. That's the beauty of the Cypher system. They all cross-compatible. Absolutely. Not only are they cross-compatible, so are the descriptors with mixing.
Cross-genre.
Yeah, cross-genre, mixing and matching your character type. So you could be the tough addict, you know what I mean? And come up with a creative character for that as well. So yeah, Atlas is 100% right. You can take any descriptor or any focus from any of the books and make it work.
Just so you guys know, I did that with Captain America. When I had to create Captain America for somebody, he's actually a speaker, but it's one of the most kick-ass characters I ever created. It was awesome,
So are you guys, what surprised you the most from this list?
Brash. Quite honestly, Brash was one of the biggest surprises here.
Yeah, I think Brash was, because I'm with you, Brash.
What was it? Surprised you that it was on the list, or was it surprised you that? Yeah.
It surprised me that it was. It surprised me at first that it was on the list, but then remembering that most people have Numenera, it's not so surprising anymore.
I think the biggest surprise for me with that was, again, it is solid, but you don't really get too much out of it. You get, +2 speed, training initiative, and you overcome fear and intimidation. That's it. Like, again, very solid, very simple, very theme centric for the descriptor. But if you look at it, like Anthony was saying earlier, if you look at it compared to other ones on the list, like, you barely get anything compared to some of these other ones.
For the exception, to me, the biggest surprise, me personally, was that there wasn't a lot of the narrative focused descriptors on this list. Like, we didn't see Lucky, we didn't see Young, the ones that don't necessarily give you any real game breaking advantages, but are so flavorful and really flesh out your character.
Lucky gives you some. Lucky allows you to reroll.
No, but Doomed. What I mean is that it takes the flavor ahead of the actual mechanical benefits that you get, mechanic wise, right? But Doomed and Heroic are the only two on this list that I think fit that category. And Heroic wasn't even on the top 10. I was shocked that we didn't see Lucky. I was shocked that we didn't see Young.
And what Atlas says in the chat too, Foolish is another one that's kind of like that. And Clumsy. Clumsy's also kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
very
shocked that we
surprising.
didn't see any of those because I would think that there were more. But I also think that you know, most gamers want an efficient character. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying.
The mindset is that inabilities equal inefficiency, which isn't true, but that's the mindset.
Well, again, like we said, I think again, one of the biggest things that needs to happen, you know, is when you sit down at a Cypher System table, is that you have to start switching that mindset. That you know you're here to tell a story as well as roll some dice and do some mad, crazy, cool stuff. You know,
But for the record, you can still enjoy Cypher System playing at the mechanical route.
Yes.
I never said no. I'm not saying that. I'm just pointing out, you know, what you're saying. I'm playing devil's advocate to what you're saying. You know, and the only way you're going to get what you're talking about is a switch in mindset. That's all.
But I mean, I don't care either way. I was just saying that I was surprised that they weren't on there. I thought there would have been more.
Absolutely, I got you.
I'm just always a little leery of like I don't like the concept of like I enjoy a certain kind of game and you know my style of game is the way you have to play the game. You know, like I didn't appreciate it in 5e, and I don't want to bring that argument into.
Oh no, I'm not. And if anybody's don't take it the wrong way because that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying literally what I just said. It's more about viewing it through a different lens. If you view it through a different lens, then you kind of get a different experience. If you sit down at the table playing Cypher like you play 5e or something else, then you know you can still have fun. It's there. You know, those things are built in.
How many of the top 10 have you played? I gotta count now.
5.
Me, not many, honestly. I would say probably 3. But if I actually counted, it'd probably be around 3. Cause like I guess like you just said it. A lot of these aren't like, a lot of the narrative, you know, focused ones that are like don't necessarily have great mechanical benefits, but are themed or you know thematic or you know very whatever. They're not really on the list, and those are the ones I usually aim for my character. So like again, for my top 5, I think 2 of them made it. I forget if Resilient was in my top 5, but Mad and Doom definitely were, and yeah, those were narrative, you know, flavorful ones, and yeah, again, not many of them on the list are like that.
Yeah, I played 5 as well, including the 4 honorable mentions. I played Mad, Doomed, Resilient, Learned, and there was one other one I played.
And see, that's funny because I played mine.
Well, Heroic. So I played 5.
Yeah, mine come from the honorable mentions, but in addition, I also, you know, if you want to count it that way, I can say 7 that I've played. I mean, I've used a bunch of them on different character sheets and stuff because I actually have Learned and Mad that I also played.
All right, so the last question of the day is there a descriptor on this top 10 that you are now willing to play after going over them?
I'll play any of them.
I mean, you know us. We're usually open to play basically anything if it's thrown at us. If we didn't really have a choice, you know, we'd obviously, you know, give them a whirl. But I will say that I wasn't really fully aware of Heroic because again, it's from Expanded Worlds, a book I don't really look at too frequently, and it's an awesome one. Like that's again, it's like Mad, it's like Doomed. It's a very similar one to those like Clumsy, those guys. So it's definitely one I would definitely or am definitely going to include in characters in the future.
I mean, if there was one of the ones that are on here that I've never actually played, I'd probably go with Mystical. I think that's pretty cool one to, you know.
That's my pick too, Dean. I was just looking at Mystical.
You know, if they're, you know, but I'll play any of them. I mean, if I sit down at a table and, you know, I'm handed a character or whatever, you know, I'll play it, you know. You know, and again, depending on what I'm doing, you know, I might actually, you know, especially like, you know, getting ready to run a fantasy campaign, wanting to run Tallest and stuff, I'm probably going to make like Brash, Graceful, and Tough available descriptors, like in the, what do you call it, the lexicon of archetypes, make that something that's huge. Because those are really good ones to just have there, and resilient as well. Those are definitely gonna be there, because I want people to be able to make different types of, fighters, different types of rogues, and so on and so forth.
I think overall it's a good list.
Yeah.
Very solid. Again, you've mentioned it before, but it's interesting seeing, because you can kind of like glean the mindset behind why things were chosen and, the order they were chosen. And it's definitely interesting to see a more mechanical lean than a narrative lean. Definitely didn't expect that.
I knew that was going to be the case. I think didn't know to this extent it was going to be the case, but I knew that was going to be the case.
I think that's also something interesting with Cypher, if you want to look at it too. Another, again, talk about putting on those different lenses to look through it at. That's an aspect of Cypher where you can literally go, you know what? I want some mechanical flavor and I want some, narrative flavor. So maybe you look at your descriptor as your mechanical flavor and your type as your mechanical flavor, but then you get your focus and that's your narrative flavor. That's gonna help shape, the other aspects of your character. So like you can get to do everything you want to do all at the same time at the table.
Or you could also argue from what you say makes 100% sense, but you could also argue from a person picking out their character, right? I can make all the narrative stuff fluff. I don't need mechanics
right
for that. So when I'm building my character, I'm gonna use all three to make sure my character is mechanically legit. And then anything else I'll add in as fluff, just in the narrative.
Exactly.
Like, I don't need mechanical benefits for that, Mm-hmm. But I was surprised by that. I mean, I wasn't surprised that it leaned mechanical. I was surprised by how much. Like I was expecting one of those like wacky descriptors to make it, like foolish, so something like that.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see one of those on the list. But again, I think again, when we look at it, I think the majority of what we saw though was Numenera descriptors, in the top 10. Because I just pulled up. No, I'm saying I just pulled up what's the name, and look, from Numenera: clever, graceful, intelligent, learned, swift, tough, and stealthy. So 7 of the top 10 came directly from Numenera Discovery.
I mean, but that makes sense. It's the most popular.
Right, and that's the thing, and I think that might be something to talk about to our audience one day, is maybe grabbing the Cypher System rulebook and adding that to your Numenera book just for the fun of it, because there's aspects that will really flesh out your Numenera games. These are different directions and stuff.
That's a video for another day, but that is a great video idea.
Yes.
All right. So listen, guys, anybody got any other final thoughts before we get out of here? Anthony?
Your guys can go first. My final thoughts is that this was a lot of fun, but I got to do my spiel at the end, so I'll let you guys go away with it.
Yeah, it was definitely a great list. And again, I said I'm surprised of how heavily it leaned mechanically as opposed to narratively.
Yeah, so for me, guys, we'll talk about the next videos to come. Thank you, everybody, for coming out, and it was awesome. I learned a few things, and hey, Kitty.
Hey, before you sign us out, if you like us and you like what we do, could please join the Cypher Unlimited Discord. We have the largest fan-run Discord server out there, close to 4,000 members and games being played every day. Join our YouTube channel. We really, really appreciate it if you subscribed on our YouTube channel. We're trying to get to 700 subs. We're, I think, 28 away. We'll really appreciate it. If you haven't, just hit, or if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that little subscribe button and a notification bell, let you know all the videos we do. We put out at least one video a week. And, you know, even if you don't like us, hit that subscribe to tell us that you hate us every week. We appreciate that too. Or give us a follow and subscribe here on Twitch. We really appreciate that as well. We stream every Wednesday at 10 p.m. We usually have guests on actual plays, or we just BS about Cypher System. Or go to the online store and get this cool Cypher Unlimited merch that me and Dean got on. You'll be the cool kid on the block with some CU swag. Or give us a little donation on Ko-fi. All our videos will always be free, but it helps us out with little things like Zoom course. And last but not least, we love you guys. Peace.
Yeah, thank you again so much for coming by, guys. It's definitely an interesting topic, definitely interesting list, and we'll see you guys next week. So from us at the CU, we will see you later.